meantime, the railway strike averted with Senate action following up on a House bill, but doesn't include what the unions wanted in there. Let's bring in our panel. Jason Riley, Wall Street Journal columnist and senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, Fox News media analyst, a host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz, and Leslie Marshall, Democratic strategist. Leslie, for the railway action, you know, there were a lot of people, well, Republicans in particular, who said this is not Congress's job to get in the middle of this. This should have been negotiated at the table. President Biden said they're going to push it down the road to fight for this paid sick leave that's not in this deal.
They should fight for the paid sick leave. I mean, you know, the president is a very pro-union president. Democrats are very pro-union candidates. It's the right thing to do. I would disagree that Congress shouldn't get involved because, you know, one of the things that the president has to do is has to care about national security, has to care about the economy, has to care about transportation, and all of that is wrapped up with this. So I think that the president did the right thing, and it's a very, very hard position for him to be in because he had to look at the best interest of the country, but also appease the unions, which are huge supporters, and that he will also say helped him to get over the finish line to become president in the last election.
Jason?
Yeah, I also think this was the right call. And it's what the law says, that Congress is the arbiter of last resort. And I think the consequences to the economy, if this didn't pass, were real. They weren't being made up. And I finally, you know, a lot of this wasn't about salaries. These union workers will be getting big increases in salaries. It was over these things like sick leave and so forth. I think they were asking for too much, frankly. I think the Biden administration has been quite generous in things like the Inflation Reduction Act and steering money to union labor and their priorities. So I think this was a bridge too far, and I think it was the right thing for Congress to do at the end. Also in Congress today, Howie, Tim Cook from Apple was up there. Our own Hillary Vaughn tried to ask him some questions about China to no avail through the hallways of Congress numerous times. But we can listen to this for a second.
Used to evade surveillance from the Chinese government. Do you think it's problematic to do business with the Communist Chinese Party when they suppress human rights?
Valor, effort to try to get the question answered. But meantime, Elon Musk is saying Republican lawmakers and some tech CEOs are rallying behind Elon Musk's public attacks on Apple, alleging its control over its App Store amounts to an abuse of power. The worst Apple faces from Congress is hearings that might embarrass it. The legislature has struggled and failed under Democratic control to pass any major restrictions on big tech firms or revisions to antitrust laws. Split control of Congress in the new year makes action even less likely. Musk is raising the Apple question.
Yes, and it kind of got answered now because while it's fascinating to watch Democrats pound Elon Musk every day because they like the old rules under which they could shadow ban or suspend Republicans like Donald Trump. Elon Musk said that Apple hates free speech. And he demonized Apple, and he said he was told that Twitter would be kicked out of the App Store, possibly, without giving a reason. But then he apparently had a conversation with Apple's Tim Cook, and then he tweeted, well, it was a misunderstanding, and Tim was clear that he never intended to do so. In other words, Musk got it flat wrong, and he went after Apple without the facts. At the same time, it seems like liberals are just warning every day, you know, Musk is ruining Twitter. It was awful for the last 10 years under the previous management.
Yeah, Leslie, about that, I mean, the White House came out and said we're going to keep an eye on Twitter, but yet when it comes to Apple and Apple's actions with the Chinese government, essentially helping them with the crackdown, they haven't spoken up about that at all. Here's a great interview Martha did with John Kirby the other day. I don't know. It seems similar in some ways.
Yes, but no pun intended here, apples and oranges.
Yeah.
And the reason is, I mean, Twitter is a social media company. If you were comparing Twitter with Facebook, right, and we're talking about Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, that would be a different thing, and that would be apples and apples. You know, look, Twitter is a private company. They have the right to do what they want. I disagree with Elizabeth Warren, who says that, you know, Elon Musk, you know, can't make all the decisions. You know, he really can, but I don't think, you know, it's good. I don't think what he's been doing, you know, being completely transparent transparent about, hey, you should vote for this guy, you know, in Florida, you know, DeSantis, or, you know, you should vote for Republicans. I don't think that's a good place for him to be, because he's going to, he's feeding into what liberals are accusing him of on my side of the aisle. But, you know, to Apple and to Tim Cook, and any company in the United States that has their company and has their production in China, they're going to try and appease the Chinese government, and that's why they really need to bring their factories home here. It'll be better for the American people, jobs creator, and everybody will think they're wonderful.
Jason?
Well, this isn't the first time that Apple has done this. Tim Cook has a history of adapting Apple products to appease the Chinese Communist strict rules over there. And you know, he's a businessman. His bottom line is not social justice. His bottom line is to make money for his shareholders. So it's to be expected. When it comes to Elon Musk, the real thing here is, what is the alternative? Do we want a big tech industrial policy in this country where people in Congress are setting speech terms for these platforms? And I don't think we want that. I think we want the private sector fighting this out among themselves. And this is, as Howie said, very selective outrage on the part of the left, because when Twitter was being used to advance their agenda, they had no problem with how it was run. Now it's not, or supposedly it won't be doing that, and so they now are fighting over it. But again, this is very, very selective. This is all about whose ox is being gored, and so I would see it as the political theater that it is.
It is
frankly.
amazing that this free speech argument is kind of flipping on parties, and now Republicans are saying, why aren't you for free speech?
Yeah, and it also seems that many left-leaning journalists also don't want free speech. What they liked is the old system of rules and regulations. And, you know, it's not like, and I know the European Union now wants Musk to do a better job of policing hate speech. You know, what he's done is saying no permanent bans. You do something bad, you get suspended, but no permanent bans. And it has flipped. It used to be that Democrats and liberals were the party of free speech, and now they don't seem to care very much about it as long as they can get their way.
All right, meantime, this FTX story is just so bizarre. This hearing up there on Capitol Hill, just starting to get into it. Take a listen.
If our bill had been law, FTX's conduct would have been illegal and could have been prevented.
How long will it take to unpack the FTX mess to be able to understand exactly what happened and where it stands today?
I think it's going to take months, probably, before we truly understand the extent and scope of the failure.
Meanwhile, the former head of FTX, and Bankman-Fried, is giving interviews, and it's surprising his lawyers are letting him give interviews, but here's one cocky. I mean, I just can't fully get my head around this thing. He goes from $20 billion to $100,000, and all these people lose money.
First of all, my grandparents used to put money under their mattress, okay? You know, seriously, you know, and they didn't, you know, they didn't trust banks. And this is why anything too good to be true is, and this was a perfect example of that. It makes me shudder that the CEO of a company said, I didn't really understand the financial workings of this. Yeah. I didn't understand risk management, and, you know, my bad. Right, my bad. No, not my bad. There's billions of dollars and money that won't be recouped.
To media organizations, and he was lionized as the next Warren Buffett. Turns out he's more like the next Elizabeth Holmes.
And gave money to candidates too, and Democratic lawmakers and Republican lawmakers, and that part of the story is not done.
Well, it isn't done, but again, Brett, these were consenting adults who engaged in activity here and lost money. They fell for a mania, and they should bear the consequences here. What we don't want is regulating this industry out of existence, and that's what could happen if it gets too politicized.
All right, panel, thank you.